your labor, blessings and prosperity will be yours, says the Lord in Psalm 128. Good morning and welcome to Tandem Radio. We're excited to be here another Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we are each week, bringing you the good news on business, and excited to talk about God's Word and how it relates to your business and to your business life and career. So thanks for tuning in today, and I'd like to welcome not only our regional and national audience, but our international audience as well. It's always exciting to get emails from faraway lands through the internet, because people can listen online and listen through their iPhones and Droids and so forth. So it's always great to hear from you wherever you are, even if it's whether it's in our backyard or in another nation. We love to help you with your business questions. For those of you tuning in for the first time, the theme of our show is the good news on business, and we have two basic goals each week. And that is, number one, to point out God's scriptures and how they relate directly to your business. We believe Christianity is a 24/7 deal. All is fair in love and war is just not what our Lord had in mind. And I know before I knew the Lord, there was always that flick of the switch on Monday morning going into business mode, but I learned that He wants to be there through everything that we do, and certainly He is a constant help and comforter, as the Word says. So our first goal is to bring you scriptures each week. And every week God puts a few on my heart, and sometimes I read them and they line right up with what we're talking about in the show, and sometimes I go, God, what do you have in store here? But by the end of the show, He pulls it all together. And the second goal of our show is each week we have people come in from the business community who really know their stuff, who we're excited about their business and what they do, and we come up with a program title specifically for that individual, and they bring us nuggets, and our goal is to bring those nuggets out to you that you can use. I call them golden nuggets that you can use in your business on Monday morning, and hopefully you could take it with you and prosper from it, because that's the goal here, to help you find and use the good news on business. Now, today's theme is marketing with impact. And someone I know well who does that well is Willets, who's the founder of Utopia Communications. She was also voted Marketing Professional of the Year in 2011, and that says a lot because that's a peer group, and for her to be voted that means she must know her stuff, and I know firsthand that she does. So in a second, we're going to introduce you to Willets, talking about marketing with impact today on Tandem Radio. But before we go there, as we always do, let's get into the scriptures that God gave me for this week. Psalm 25:21. May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope, Lord, is in you. Luke 8:16. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a clay jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, they put it on a stand so that those who come in can see the light. John 4:28-30 is our last scripture for today. Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. So, again, we're going to tie those scriptures into today, and our theme for today is marketing with impact. And here to talk to us about that is my friend Willets, who's, like I said, the founder of Utopia Communications and also voted Marketing Professional of the Year back in 2011. Ann, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. It's always good to have you here. I'm glad you made it in.
Good. Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk about marketing today, and I want to kind of jump right into it. But before we go there, why don't you reintroduce yourself to our audience? I know you've been on before, but just tell our audience a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. I'm the founder, as you said, of Utopia Communications. We're headquartered in central New Jersey. And our firm does marketing, public relations, and advertising services. You mentioned Marketing Professional of the Year. It was actually Public Relations Pro of the Year.
Oh, okay.
So, and that was by
Where did they get that from?
That's okay. That was by the Public Relations Society of New Jersey. I was really proud of that. So we work for a variety of corporate and nonprofit clients. And, right now, too, we're also trying to break a little bit into the government space. We just received our GSA contract, so we're very excited about that.
Oh, great. Well, we'll talk about that because I'm sure people are interested in GSA.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a cognizant choice that business owners have to make to make a commitment to that, and some do and some don't. But we'll talk more about that. That's great. So let's get right to the meat of it, if we could. Well, first off, let me start with this. Why a marketing background? Why decide to start a marketing business?
I think it comes a little bit from growing up in an Irish-American household.
Okay.
We're great storytellers.
Oh, right.
And we're really good at taking someone's story and then sharing it in a way that makes it much more exciting than it actually happened.
So you're good at embellishing.
Exactly. So I think I always enjoyed doing that. I always enjoyed being a storyteller.
Mm.
And so as I started to think about what kind of career would fit me, public relations, marketing, and advertising made sense. So I've really enjoyed it, because I can tell someone else's story.
Now, did you do it corporately before, and then went into your own business, or you jumped right into your own business?
No, I actually worked on the corporate side and the agency side before I started my own business.
Okay. And where were you focused back then?
Oh my goodness. I've been all over the map. I've worked in a variety of industries, which has served me well.
Right.
Everything from fashion, beauty, food and beverage, technology, I've worked on over the years. So in starting my own agency, I was able to take the best practices from all those different industries, because really, once you know the tools, I tell people tend to think that you have to work in a certain industry to represent them.
Right.
But the way I think about it is, I can drive a Lexus, I can drive a Volkswagen, I can drive a Ford. I know how to drive.
Right.
I can pretty much drive anything.
They'll all get you there, right?
Exactly, exactly. So if you truly understand the tools and tactics of marketing communications, you can work with just about any business.
Yeah, I try to get entrepreneurs to understand that as well, because people can get very myopic to their industry, but the business principles really never change. Just like I'm sure the marketing principles, the foundational principles don't change. You just have to apply them differently to each circumstance. And sounds to me like that's an area of expertise for you.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, you are better served to look at what other industries are doing. Very often you can get so mired in what your industry does and your industry speak that you really can't separate yourself from the pack. And it's helpful to throw a little chlorine into the gene pool there.
Right, I hear you. With that in mind, let's start with how's marketing changed over the last 5 years? I mean, and I only say 5 years because it's changing so rapidly. Probably I could say how's it changed over the last 5 months, but let's just take that small window, if we can call it small. The last 5 years, what have you seen as biggest changes?
I think the channels of communication have changed the most. How to get the word out there. When people talk about the business changing, the fundamentals of the business are not changing. How to define your audience, how to craft your message, those tools, those abilities don't change. What changes is how you deliver, the delivery mechanism.
And so those mechanisms, I mean, obviously the internet's been around for a long time, so that's not new in the last 5 years. But when you say that the mechanisms have changed, give us a little more detail. I mean, I think a lot of us have heard of things like LinkedIn and Facebook, obviously, and having your own website, blogs. Maybe you can give us a little meat for that.
It's really interesting, though. While the internet has been around since the 90s, I think in the last 5 years, the adoption rates have grown significantly. You have more people, especially elderly people, starting to adopt and use the internet than ever before. The way the teens, the tweens, and the millennials are using it has also changed significantly. And there are always new websites cropping up, whether, at one point Plaxo was big for business, now it's LinkedIn.
Right.
At one point, everyone thought MySpace was, the answer, and it's Facebook. Yelp. Now that you have Instagram and all these other sites that will come and go. So the trick is, which ones can truly benefit a business? And that's where there seems to be a disconnect in the business community. So many business leaders at least come to us and say, I think I need to be there. How much do I spend? How much emphasis do I put on it? Where do I move my marketing dollars?
Exactly.
There's a lot of confusion out there right now.
Well, it's funny you say that, because my next question was, how do you decide what marketing mediums to use? And I think we only have a couple minutes before the break, so let's just touch on that, and we'll come back after the break with more depth. How do you bring that to bear? I mean, there's so many to choose from, right? So many different avenues, even some of the things that we may consider old, like newspapers and mailers. There's still places for those things. So let's start with, maybe you can just broach the subject, and we'll come back after the break. How does one sit down and choose?
What is your customer looking at? It's that simple. What does your customer look at? And what does your prospect audience look at?
And what about when a company really doesn't know that answer? Because, you know, a lot of times I see that. Like, I've done seminars where I've said to people, okay, take the next minute and write down your ideal customer. And I get people having all kinds of blank stares on their face,
Exactly.
going like, I don't know, what do you mean by that, you know? I mean, I find so many people marketing to the wrong customer,
Absolutely.
you know? So can you give us a little more depth on that? How does a company who's maybe has that blank stare I'm talking about, how do they figure that out?
You need to do some research. Who is your customer now? Go out and talk to them. Ask them, what are you reading? Where do you get your information? What are you basing your decisions on? Research is critical, and now you can do it so cost effectively, more so than ever before. Why wouldn't you?
Now, is that a service that your company offers? Is that something
Yes,
that
yes.
you guys would sit down with a customer, with a potential client, and say, let us do a market research for you, or a client research for you?
Absolutely. We had a really interesting situation not that long ago where we had a client who came to us and they spent close to $500,000 a year on brochures, marketing their educational programs for teachers.
Right.
And we asked them, why are you doing this hard copy? Why isn't this online? Why can't teachers go and read your course offerings and register online? And they said, well, we don't think teachers use the internet.
There you go. There goes Utopia jumping right in for the wake-up call, right?
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're going to talk more about that right after the break. Thank you, Ann, for being here this morning. I know you have a busy schedule, and I know it's going to be fun the rest of the show.
My pleasure.
No problem. You're listening to Tandem Radio, and speaking of websites, tandemradio.com. You need to check out tandemradio.com. If you're already listening there, you can click through, obviously, to all the resources there. But if you're not listening through the internet, by all means, check out tandemradio.com. It's filled with resources. We have archived shows there. You can get in touch with us through that website as well. Ask us questions. You can find information about not only our sponsors, but our guests. And you can reach those guests and ask them questions for your business. It's all about business, the good news on business at tandemradio.com. And we also have videos on there that I know you'll love to see and watch me really making a mess of the show right there in video. So stay tuned. We got a lot more right after this break. Well, welcome back to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glen, and again, here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bridge FM radio network and on tandemradio.com, our website. We love hearing from you there as well. We're here today with our guest, Ann Willets, who is the founder of Utopia Communications and was voted Public Relations Pro of the Year. Did I get it right this time? There you go. We're talking about marketing with impact. And a lot of people do marketing that have no impact. And I know I see tons of money sometimes spent and wasted on marketing that may have sounded good at one time or even sounds good today, but just doesn't work. It's kind of like a lot of times politicians come up with all these ideas and I say, that sounds good, but it don't work, you know? So marketing that works is so important. Now, we were talking about a company before the break that you mentioned that they were marketing to teachers, and the owner of the company said, you know, we don't market on the internet. So tell us more about those types of scenarios. What are some? How do you help companies find the right avenues or the right channels, as you mentioned, for marketing their business?
Sure. We try to look at first of all, who do they need to sell to? That's the most important. And then try to do some research on where are those people getting their information.
Right.
And what information are they using to make their decisions? You know, in that particular case, they were marketing courses to teachers to help make them better teachers.
Right.
And they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on printing brochures and hard mailing them out.
Right.
They did have emails. You know, they did have a lot of emails for teachers. And so what we needed to find out was how often were these teachers going online to decide what they wanted to do for their professional development?
Right.
Where were they getting their money for professional development? And how often were they going back to school for professional development?
Right.
All that was very easy and inexpensive to do online. We also asked them, would you prefer to get your information online or by hard copy?
Good point.
96% came back and said they prefer to get it online. That company was able to cut their costs by over $470,000 per quarter on printing.
Wow. Amazing.
It was amazing. And it was very simple research done using the emails and using SurveyMonkey.
And there's a perfect reason to pick someone like Utopia to come in and say, hey, let's look at the bigger picture here.
Exactly.
And I see that. In that realm, what are some of the avenues that people are missing? I mean, when you walk into a business, what's some of the most common things they're not doing?
They're not doing the basics.
Mm.
They are not collecting information. They don't have good database management systems to track existing clients, former clients, and prospects. I think that's one of the most basic things I see.
Right.
Because that information you can then take and use, what is marketing 101?
Right.
Most of your business comes from growing existing accounts
Right.
and referral.
Mm.
So start with what you have. But most people don't collect the information. They're
Right.
so busy running their business, they don't collect the information and think about using it.
I'm always surprised at how many companies don't have email databases. And they deal with clients every day. They're emailing a lot of them back and forth, but they don't have it in a database that they can actually market them.
Exactly. And one of the things you and I were talking about before we went on air was how inexpensive it is becoming
Right.
to do things that used to cost a lot of money back in the day. You can find great customer relationship management cloud software where you can manage your contacts. You know exactly how many emails you're sending. You can set up email campaigns. Yes, it does take some time if you do it yourself.
Right.
But for the most part, things like Salesforce.com, Constant Contact, MailChimp, all these services are available.
Right.
And they're relatively inexpensive for a small to mid-sized business to take advantage of.
What I like about what you're saying too is I know entrepreneurs, especially if you're starting up. First off, let me just digress a little bit. If you're starting a business for the first time and you think you're going to work 9 to 5, forget it. Go get a job somewhere, right? But realistically, for those of you who are the young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs in business, or maybe you're seasoned but not where you want to be, one of the great things about these marketing tools, I think, that are excellent, is you can work on these things after your prime working hours. So
Yes.
if you're seeing clients 9 to 5 like me and your schedule's packed all day, when 5 o'clock hits, the phone stops ringing, your clients aren't in their offices anymore, you can sit down for about 2 or 3 hours and get all this stuff done. You can pull together a database, you can get with Constant Contact, you can update your Facebook, you can do all those things. I mean, if we talked about this briefly, but if you're on Twitter in the middle of the day and you're texting people like crazy, you're probably blowing a lot of your time and don't even realize it. So from a time management standpoint, think about this. Set aside maybe a couple hours every evening. Maybe it's 6 to 8 or after dinner, and you can do it at home even from your own computer. But if you really want your business to succeed and you're a true entrepreneur, you're going to realize that you need to put in some of those nighttime hours. And this is a perfect way to do it because you could be promoting and marketing and doing things to your client base when they're not even at the office. And in the morning when they come in, bang, you got the impact of it. So that's great, Ann. Thank you for sharing that with us. Are there any other biggies that people are missing in marketing?
Biggies that they're missing.
I mean, one of the things I mentioned before was I think people don't identify their client base, their ideal client. And I just want to encourage someone who's listening right now that sit down and just make a list of your 5 favorite clients. And let me just qualify that for a minute. That's not maybe your biggest client or the client that spends the most money with you or whatever. It's the client that you like dealing with the best, the one that makes the most profit for you on every deal, the one that you have a good rapport with, the one that you know is going to be there long term. Write 3 or 5 of those down clearly, and then make a list of why they're such a good client. And that's the client you should be focused on. If you focus all your efforts on getting those clients, believe me, the ones you're not so crazy about will come. But if you go out there and you get the ones that you really, really enjoy working with, those are the ones that are going to make your business more profitable.
And I think there's a good point in that too. Know when to walk away.
There you go.
We recently, actually last week, walked away from a client. It just was not a fit.
Right.
For whatever reason, we did not have the rapport with this client that we have with our other clients. And because of that, we could not get them moving.
Right.
And I think it's really important because the amount of time you waste
Right.
on the clients that are not a good fit for you can be used to market yourself and get the right client.
That's right.
When you have the right client, the job is easy.
Mm.
It really is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about one of the scriptures today was John 4:28-30. Then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. What hit me with this was the old word of mouth. How powerful is word of mouth? Is it still all that, or has technology taken a lot of that away?
Technology just fosters word of mouth. If you're my Facebook friend,
Right.
and I tell you what a wonderful experience I had at a local restaurant, it's still word of mouth.
Right.
Technology only amplified my voice and allowed me to talk to a bigger town square
Right.
than the woman with the water jug. It's really all it is.
Yeah.
And the same holds true for Twitter or Yelp or any other. Like I said earlier, technology is only the channel. It only amplifies your voice.
Right.
You still have to worry about what you say and how you say it. That doesn't change.
So it's still important to keep yapping out there, or yelping out there, talking to people. And the way to do it sometimes, obviously, has changed. It used to be the telephone, telegraph, telephone, whatever. But obviously, it's still important to talk about your business to people.
Absolutely, but who are you talking to is really important. Who are the influencers? You and I talk to each other, I know, online, and,
Right.
and we kind of share contacts on LinkedIn and Facebook and things like that. That's because I trust you. That's because I know you're connected to the kind of people I want to get to know and expose my business to. So again, we have to think about who are we talking to and how can they impact our business. I see over and over entrepreneurs and small businesses friending, their kids or following people that they find amusing.
Right.
Think about it. Be smart about it. Find people who are truly influential
Right.
and foster those relationships, because that's what's going to help you grow and get the word out there.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, just to go back to staying in this theme of the channels that are out there, viral. One time was a big word, hot. People were dying to get things to go viral. Is that getting passé, or is that still something that you trend for when you're, or track for when you're talking about these marketing efforts?
Everybody talks about it. It gets a lot of hype, and sometimes the CEO will say, "Oh my goodness, it went viral. Wasn't that wonderful?" But it doesn't sell a single unit.
Right.
It doesn't make a difference. If it goes viral and it does make a difference, that's great.
Right.
But I still believe that slow and steady wins the race. That when you communicate consistently and effectively over a long period of time and build your reputation, that is what eventually is going to move the needle on your business.
Right.
You can run an ad once and it's a very funny, great ad, but you don't sell anything. Whereas you can run something a little bit more mundane over a long period of time and help grow your business locally or regionally.
Right.
So, one ad wins an award and the other doesn't, which is actually more effective.
So let's say, how do you, real quick, because we're down to just almost again a break. Whenever I have you in the studio, it goes just so fast. One of the things I want to talk about when we come out of the break is what are the steps towards getting something that goes viral and also has an impact. So think about that, and we'll talk about that right after the break. Right?
Okay, great.
We're here talking to Ann Willets, who's the founder of Utopia Communications. It's a public relation firm, marketing firm that provides a lot of powerful information and resources, and most importantly, brings in sales for their clients. And just real quick, tell us your website.
www.utopiacommunications.biz, B-I-Z.
utopiacommunications.biz. So that's where you can reach Ann, check her out there, and I know she'll be helpful to your business. If you're out there looking to get some marketing done, start with a professional. Start with somebody like Ann. You're listening to Tandem Radio, and we're here every week doing our best to point you to God's Scripture and help you realize that He wants your business to succeed, and so do we. We'll be back right after these words. Well, welcome back to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glen DeLakian. Excited to be here another Saturday morning. We're here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the good news on business, pointing you to God's Scriptures to see that there is just so much wisdom in the Bible that can help you with your business every day. And helping me to do that today is our guest, Ann Willets, who's the founder of Utopia Communications, and she was also voted Public Relations Professional of the Year. I'm sure that those accolades are well deserved, because I know Ann and and she does a great job with marketing. Digging right back in, we were talking before the break about going viral. Any quick tips on, and it's a two-sided coin here, you not only want to go viral with something, but what's the end goal? What's the end game? How's it going to bring dollars into your business? What good is something viral, but to what end, right? So, and give some tips to the average person how to get something out there that you want to go viral and making it something of value.
Sure. First of all, you have to start with a good network.
Mm.
So if you wanted to go viral on Facebook or YouTube or another channel, you have to be actively engaged on those channels and have people who follow you that have a good amount of followers themselves
Right.
to get it going. The things that tend to go viral have to have a little bit of humor to them.
Mm.
Using humor effectively is critical to make something go viral. Also, it has to be visually appealing and easily shared to go viral.
Mm.
When a business puts something out there thinking that it'll just take off because it's great information, well, it does have to be useful information. I'm not going to share it with my friends unless I think they can benefit from it.
Right.
But very often we share things with friends because we find it amusing.
Exactly.
And that's something that a lot of businesses don't have the courage to do.
Mm.
They're frightened of humor.
Right.
Because, you have to have a little bit of an edge and you have to be willing to take some risk
Mm.
before you can put something out there that does go viral.
Right.
What some companies do effectively is they'll have a challenge and they'll engage university students or someone a little bit younger to, give us your best viral video and you win a prize.
Right. Right.
And then we'll put it up
Mm.
and give you some exposure. And students in film schools and universities love to do those things.
Right.
They can win $500, and what they can do with a sense of humor, some creativity, and a webcam
Mm.
is, sometimes better than what you might spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with a major ad agency on.
Right, right. It's amazing. As a matter of fact, there's actually groups out there that now are soliciting college students for those positions.
Mhm.
I think they call them memes or something like that. And it's a new term that I've just heard. My son's been interviewing for some of these things, and he's always good at making these little shorts and throwing them out on Facebook, with 1-minute videos. And there was actually 2 companies that he interviewed for that all they want to do is come in and work on 60-second shorts about their product. And they have a whole department that all they're doing is focused on banging out 60-second shorts and throwing these videos out online as often as possible about their product. It's crazy.
Now, does he put those up on a YouTube channel?
Yeah, as far as I know. So again, he's been interviewing for these things, but
Mhm.
the things he's doing are very neat. I'll have to connect with him. But
I was just about to say.
again, I memes or something like that. He said, "Dad, you never heard of that? Come on." And I was like, "No, I guess I'm over 25. I never heard of that stuff." So anyway, but moving along with this, the viral thing obviously is exciting and important. What about the old age adage, truth in advertising? I know we're kind of shifting gears here, but I know this is a pet topic of yours. I know you do a lot of public speaking about ethics and business ethics. I am involved in some of that stuff. I actually do a lot of work with DECA in the law and public ethics arena, and it's an important topic to me. Obviously ties in well to our show, The Good News on Business.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about this. Is there such a thing as guidelines or people that are actually watching for truth in advertising these days?
Absolutely. The FTC.
Yeah.
Ad agencies for years have known these guidelines, and the guidelines have been expanded to include social media.
Okay.
So what you can say within the realm of social media has to be truthful as well. And some people think social media is the Wild West of advertising.
Right.
It is not. It is as regulated as regular
Oh,
advertising.
really? It is? I would have never known that.
Absolutely. There was a case actually not that long ago, a company called Lifestyle Lift. The 1-hour facelift
Oh, yeah, I
kind
see.
of thing.
It isn't
Exactly.
like one of these famous stars, right? Kind of promotes
Exactly.
it, yeah?
Well,
I was thinking of
There-
getting that done, actually.
you don't need it. But they got into some trouble because what they did is they had some of the younger people at the agency that represented Lifestyle Lift start posting online about, I went and got this wonderful facelift and I look great. And these were 25-year-old staffers in the office who were putting this stuff up
Right.
online so that when people went and checked out, should I get a lifestyle lift, they would see all these wonderful reviews, right?
Right.
And I guess nobody really thought it was wrong at that point, but it was, in effect, not truth in advertising, and they were fined about $300,000 by the Attorney General in New York. And
No kidding.
more and more of this is happening. It's happened to companies like Walmart and Microsoft, and they are highly, this is something that's getting more and more attention from regulators.
Right.
Because if it's not truthful, it can really mislead the consumer.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer, too, that it's not just about breaking the law. It's about a company's credibility.
Right.
And the companies you're seeing that are surviving the downturn and that are coming back as the economy starts to turn are the ones whose reputations remained intact.
Right.
It's absolutely critical. And there's more and more now business valuation being done on corporate reputation than ever before. You used to value a business based on, its assets, its liabilities, its team, its products, etc. Now there's more valuation being done on corporate reputation as well.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, because it's funny, because sometimes you watch these advertisements on TV or listen on the radio, not here, of course, but you listen and you hear, like, how can that be true? Or you wonder, whatever happened to truth in advertising? Like, for example, what about, how does this apply to political ads? I mean, you see all this craziness on these political ads, and I don't want to get off on a tangent on which side or whatever, but both sides, they run these crazy ads. How do you know, who holds them accountable? Is that FTC also?
Yes. And you'll notice that what they say in a very careful and measured way.
You would hope, yeah, or think.
Exactly. And there's always a grain of truth. Maybe not the whole truth.
Right.
We were taught when I was young about lies of omission.
Right.
as being just as bad as an outright lie.
Right.
So.
They used to call them white lies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to hear that there are that they're still monitored in some way. But again, of course, you can't believe everything you see or everything you hear. That's for sure. But let's go back to this ethics issue. You go around, you speak about this as a favorite topic of yours. What are some of the things you either run into or speak about when you're out on these speaking tours?
What I found is very few professional communicators have been trained in ethics. Usually, the accounting staff, legal teams are trained in ethics,
right.
But it's rare for corporate communicators to be trained in terms of ethics, but it's really, really important. But one of the things I'm seeing overall in business with ethics is I don't think people set out to do the wrong thing.
Right.
My blog is called The Ethical Optimist because I truly believe most people mean to do well.
Sure.
Maybe that's Pollyanna, but that's my personal philosophy. But what I'm finding is people are succumbing to ethical lapses for a variety of reasons. But the top reasons are speed. People are moving so fast, they're not thinking about the choices that they are making. They're so busy getting a product to market
right.
that they're not taking time to say, is the product, does it have any flaws?
Right.
It's hurry. Let's take care of the shareholders. People are not thinking. They're not slowing down and thinking. And the other big one I see in business right now is fear. People are so afraid of losing their jobs in this economy that they will compromise on their ethics to maintain a paycheck. So there's a huge fear factor out there that's driving unethical behavior or allowing people to turn a blind eye to unethical behavior.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but it's funny you mentioned the speed thing. We have a very large client right now. It's probably a $500 million company, and they're bringing a new product to market that we're helping them test. And we're giving them feedback, telling them this doesn't work, that doesn't work, this doesn't work. And they're coming back, they'll say, well, our salesmen are already selling them. And we're like, well, don't implement them, don't ship them, whatever you do. And the salesmen are like, and this is a huge company, and you would think, and they've been in the industry 25 years, so it's not like they're new to their industry, but yet they have a product that they are actually physically selling that they know does not work. It's incredible.
I had a client go to a major trade show, the Consumer Electronics Show,
right.
with a dummied product that they didn't even have the product out yet. It didn't even work. The technology didn't work.
Right.
And they were hawking the product and trying to get sales on the product when
and
it hadn't even been finalized. And they did get sales. And, that was a really interesting scenario for us. How do you handle that? I wasn't with my company at the time. I worked for another company at the time, and I said, I'm extremely uncomfortable with this, and actually wound up, losing my job over it.
Is this something that Utopia can help people with? I mean, can somebody come to you and say, look, I want to make sure that our guidelines are ethical?
Absolutely. We can do an audit of their communications function and talk to their staff and train their staff. We actually do a really nice training for communicators, just to make sure they understand not only the compliance end of it, the legal end of it, but also in ethical decision making.
Right.
A 4-step process that they can follow to make sure they're trying to stay on point.
Well, sometimes as Christians, we take ethics for granted, but we have to remember we have to teach those not only to our children, but to our employees as well. So keep that in mind if you need that type of help. Or maybe you're not sure you need that type of help. I'm sure Ann can come in and evaluate those things for you and help you with your business. You're listening to Tandem Radio, the good news on business, here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you'd like to reach out to us, info@tandemradio.com. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions or need advice about your business or just general input, we'll help you. We'll do our best to point you in the right direction. We'll certainly pray for your business and hopefully get you some good information. Info@tandemradio.com. We'll be right back after this. Well, welcome back to Tandem Radio. This is Glen, your host, with the good news on business. And as I mentioned earlier, every week God puts some scriptures on my heart that we talk about during the show. And the first one that came today was Psalm 25:21. May integrity and uprightness protect me, because my hope, Lord, is in you. Now, we covered that one as we talked about ethics. And the flip side of that whole ethical question is certainly that the integrity will protect you. And God says it right here in the Psalms. Luke 8:16. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a clay jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, they put it on a stand so that those who come in can see the light. Of course, this scripture specifically, the light of the gospel, but it also applies to your business as well. As Ann mentioned, if you're not out there using these resources, if you're not out talking to people, if you're not talking it up, chatting it up, putting things out there, who's going to hear you? So if you have a great product and you have great information and great success stories, but nobody's talking about it, how can you be profitable? John 4:28-30. Then leaving her water jug, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. A great evangelism story. A lot of times people don't want to speak about their faith, and sometimes they don't even want to speak about their business. And you need to go out there and speak about these things that are good to you and good for you in order to get the word out there to the people. And I think those are some of the reasons why God put these particular scriptures on our hearts. And we're talking about marketing with impact. Thank you for being here again today.
I love coming here.
Thank you. I'll remember that. Ann Willets, again, is the founder of Utopia Communications, and she was also voted Public Relations Professional of the Year. And Ann, let's dig right into your website. I'm sure you have some resources there that people can go to. What are some of the topics that you, maybe articles or something that people can click on right on your website and find information about some of these things?
Sure. Primarily on the website, my blog would be a great place for information. On that, I tend to comment about what's happening in the industry, what's happening in terms of public relations. I try to have a strong voice on it so it's interesting. But in terms of resources and information, some great places that we post articles are our Twitter account, which is @UTOPR, @UTOPR, and also our Utopia Communications Facebook page. And very often what I'll do is we'll aggregate articles on the latest in LinkedIn, Constant Contact, different marketing tools, and we'll repost them through our Twitter and Facebook accounts for our clients and friends, just trying to keep them up to date on what's happening in the space.
Right. And that's powerful. So what was the website one more time?
It's the website is utopiacommunications.biz, and you can also follow us on Twitter @UTOPR. And also on our Utopia Communications Facebook page.
Great. And again, switching gears, because we try to cover a lot of ground, New Jersey style here. Obviously, in the past month or two, a lot of us have been impacted by a storm that ripped through here. And, it's interesting because I was with some inspectors yesterday, insurance inspectors, going to some houses and helping some people negotiate contracts. What a crazy time it is. But we all use our gifts where we can, right? And they were telling me about how much they're out at different storms all over the country that we don't even hear about. So I think storm damage, storm recovery, I think those are important topics. And I don't really hear people talking about that from a marketing perspective. So with that in mind, Ann, first off, how was your business impacted by the storm?
Frankly, we took a hit. We lost a few clients because they were impacted by the storm. And the last thing you're going to do when you need money to recover and rebuild, very often companies will cut back on their marketing.
Right.
While it's understandable, it's not always a great decision, but when you're a
Absolutely.
small to mid-sized company, you do what you have to do to survive.
That's right.
So yeah, we were definitely impacted. We were also impacted in that we lost communications for almost 2 weeks between power outages and cell phone towers down.
Right.
When we had Hurricane Irene, we could still at least do business because we had our mobile devices.
Right.
This storm changed that because we didn't even have our mobile devices. At one point, I had to drive out to Trenton just to get a cell signal.
Wow. Well, I know one of my companies certainly was impacted as well because the internet was down, the electric. And like you said, even when I got my guys back and ready to work, a lot of customers, we couldn't service them. They weren't ready. They put off work. They said, we can't come in now. The place is out, whatever. And so I think many of us got impacted. With that in mind, obviously, there's a lot to think about in the recovery process. And like you mentioned, often the smaller companies, one of the first things they cut is marketing budgets, which I think is a mistake because now you need money more than ever. So you need to bring the business in and let people know you're still there. Let's talk about some tips on recovery and what people can do with their business when they've been impacted in this way.
I think the biggest tip on recovery is planning before it happens. I don't think that many in our region thought they were going to be hit as hard as they were.
No, absolutely not.
And I don't think we learned that big a lesson from Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
Sadly. But, prior planning is essential for any business.
Right.
So I think businesses do need to step back and say, what could potentially hurt me? Now, it may not be a storm. They're talking about these electromagnetic fields taking down electronic devices. Right. It could be, embezzling within the company. There's so many things that can happen to an organization. How would you recover? So you need to think about what would impact my business.
Right.
And what should I have in place to mitigate that damage. For instance, one of the things we heard from several clients, large clients in the area, they could not get hold of their employees.
Oh, okay.
Employees didn't know, should I come into work?
Right.
Is work open? Do they have power? Because they had not set up ahead of time any kind of technology to alert people either by text message, because even though the phones were down, people still in some instances got text messages.
Right.
Do they go to the company Facebook page? Who has access to that page and can post on it? So those things, if you think about them ahead of time, you'll have far less implications to your business when an incident happens than you otherwise would.
That's good. That's a strong one. I think it's funny because when we met with the OEM management team that the sheriff had brought up from Mississippi, actually, one of the first things they said was, we hate to start the meeting this way, but it's very important. You need to plan for the next disaster. You need to have a plan in place and learn from this one. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. And they talk about that. And we're looking for resources, and they're talking about planning for the next one. So absolutely putting a plan in place. And we all learned a lot from this one because we had certainly a lot of other things that we didn't expect. What other tips do you have from a marketing perspective for the business owner that is impacted?
I think the most important thing is to, as quickly and effectively as possible, get out in front of your customers and let them know, are you in business?
Absolutely.
How can you help them?
Right.
What are they going to be looking for right now? Let's say you're maybe a local furniture store or a local hardware store, and people are going to be needing certain items.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? How are you going to let them know you have it in stock? How are you going to let them know you're open?
Right.
Those are critical things to move your business along and help your customer. Because again, it's going to come down to reputation in the end.
Right.
I'm sure I know certain business organizations in my area that stayed open or went the extra mile to help people.
Right.
They now have my business forever.
Right, exactly.
You know, I was so impressed with their performance during the storm
Right.
and their responsiveness that I have a new feeling about that business right now. That's probably going to stay with me.
Sure.
So looking at that in terms of how do I make this work for my business?
There you go.
I know you and I talked, even for you, you've done a lot of work for clients of yours that are in a tight spot. So maybe you're working with them about payment options.
Right.
You know cash flow is tight for them right now. They need the work done. Can they pay you later?
Right.
They're never going to forget that.
Right.
They're never going to forget it.
So it's that goodwill that you do, and it kind of reminds me of the old adage, when you're given lemons, make lemonade, and
Absolutely.
taking advantage of the opportunity in a positive way and going out there and creating some goodwill. And I want to tell you, that goodwill works on both sides of the fence, because when we can send our employees as business owners, when you can send your employees into a situation and your employees know your company's hurting and know it was difficult, but yet you still sent them out to help other people, and it makes a difference on both sides of the fence. It makes a difference for the relationship with the client long term, and it makes a difference for the employee as well. And I can't believe we whipped through the whole segment already.
That went quick.
It does, it always does, especially when you're here. We thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. God bless you. Much continued success with Utopia Communications.
Thank you.
And you're listening to Tandem Radio. We're here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just excited about the good news on business and all that God has in store for us. And He has so much in store for you. And all you have to do is go to His Word, read His Scripture, and you'll find out where all that business advice can come from. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook at Tandem Radio.